Once again, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Welcome to the home of authoritative news coverage. To our top story tonight, where we sustain our coverage of the oil importation scandal that landed top energy sector bosses in hot soup. And it's now emerging that the Ministry of Energy was forced to invoke emergency powers and bypass the normal supply system of the government-to-government deal after the main nominated oil marketing company failed to deliver fuel for the country. Documents exclusively obtained by The Standard reveal how Gulf Energy Limited, a nominated oil marketing company entrusted with the critical fuel supply contract, failed to deliver, forcing the Ministry of Energy to bypass the normal supply chain. And as our senior political affairs reporter Chris Thyro details, senior government officials in the energy sector used the opportunity to undercut deals, hence raking in billions of shillings.
In the final days of March 2026, Kenya stood on the brink of a fuel crisis that would have shut down the economy as the country prepared for the Easter holidays, with demand for petrol surging by 20%. The national stocks were running dangerously low that the government, through the Ministry of Energy, projected a complete stockout by April 2nd this year. Behind the scenes, a frantic race was underway, with senior government officials cutting deals. Documents exclusively obtained by KTN reveal how Gulf Energy Limited, a nominated oil marketing company entrusted with the critical fuel supply contract, failed to deliver, forcing the Ministry of Energy, led by CS Opiyo Wandayi, to invoke emergency powers and bypass the normal supply system. A National Security Council committee letter dated 9th March instructed the Ministry of Energy to explore and implement strategies to avert national energy crisis, even if it means going outside the G2G deal. Yes, the ministry moved to avert an immediate disaster by awarding emergency contracts to One Petroleum and Oryx Energies. However, documents in our possession raise serious questions about Gulf Energy performance, the lack of any subsequent investigation by the Opiyo Wandayi-led ministry on how a company at the center of a near catastrophe remains in the loop for future business. Minutes from high-level meetings of the national supply chain chaired by officials from the Ministry of Energy, KPC, EPRA, and oil marketers showed growing concern. On March 18th, a key admission was made. The vessel had already loaded fuel in Jebel Ali, but escalating regional tensions blocked its route and it could not sail through the Strait of Hormuz. By March 19, the situation turned critical. Internal projections from Energy PS Liban warned Kenya had just 11 days of petrol to cover, and a stockout was now expected by March 30th. With no immediate response 2 days later, on March 19th, on March 21st, Gulf Energy finally responded with a letter to the principal secretary in it. They provided a detailed chronology of their failure. In their argument, they argued the delivery vessel for KG05/2026 Elka Abpon arrived at the port of Jebel Ali on 28th of February 2026, ready for loading. Unfortunately, that was the same day on which the conflict in the Middle East escalated. A directive from the National Security Council changed everything. The ministry headed by CS Opiyo Wandayi was authorized to bypass the standard government-to-government fuel system, and emergency action was now permitted, the first public hint that the government was preparing to bypass the national government-to-government G2G framework and find its own emergency supply. Fast forward to March 25, the ministry formalized the deals, and in a letter to One Petroleum Limited, PS Liban confirmed the delivery of the cargo. Copies of both letters were sent to Cabinet Secretary for Energy Opiyo Wandayi, confirming his office was fully briefed on the emergency measures. Even as the emergency cargo were being confirmed, Gulf Energy was still scrambling. On March 21st, they submitted a proposal for the 37,000 metric ton cargo from Saudi. Worse, the ministry noted that this cargo quality was substandard. The ministry letter to Gulf Energy dated March 25th acknowledges receipt of Gulf's proposal, but states, and I quote, "We also note that the quality specifications is outside Kenyan standards. However, in the interest of security of supply of petroleum products, an exemption shall be processed." Despite these violations of the Kenya Bureau of Standards Code, the ministry, which is headed by CS Opiyo Wandayi, granted the exemption, and the cargo was accepted under the existing KG 06/2026 allocations. The government, under direct orders from the National Security Council, was forced to declare an emergency and handpick competitors, One Petroleum and Oryx Energies, to save the country from an Easter fuel crisis. Oil marketers were invited to submit emergency fuel offers. Responses came quickly from One Petroleum, Oryx Energies, Has Petroleum, and E3 Energies. After technical evaluation, the ministry made its choice. It recommended that the offers by One Petroleum Limited, with delivery date range 23rd to 26th March, and Oryx Energies, with a delivery date range of March 10th, are considered. Copies of both letters were sent to Cabinet Secretary for Energy Opiyo Wandayi, confirming his office was fully briefed on the emergency measures. Despite these violations of the Kenya Bureau of Standards Code, the ministry granted the exemption and the cargo was accepted under the existing KG 06/2026 allocations. Gulf Energy, a major player in Kenya's fuel import system, failed to secure the timely delivery of a contracted PMS cargo. The initial vessel was stuck. Their partial substitute left a shortfall, and their subsequent offers arrived late with inferior quality. The government, under direct orders from the National Security Council, was forced to declare an emergency and handpick competitors, One Petroleum and Oryx Energies, to save the country from an Easter fuel crisis. Copies of every critical letter from March 17th query to the March 25th acceptance of substandard fuel were sent to CS Opiyo Wandayi. The political leadership knew the details of Gulf's failure, the emergency measures taken, and the quality waivers granted. The Ministry of Energy, led by Opiyo Wandayi, having averted a crisis and has moved on to the next import plan for April-June 2026, where Gulf Energy is again listed as a major importer. A company that nearly caused a national fuel shortage faces no consequences. Question remains, why is Opiyo Wandayi still in office, yet is the one responsible for the ministry? Why is Opiyo still free, yet persons who work directly under him are behind bars? The three: former KPC MD Joe Sang, former EPRA Director General Danny Kipto, sacrificial lambs. Chris Dairo, KTN, Nairobi.
Well, we'll continue giving you a blow-by-blow account